They underestimate you. They cut you off mid-sentence. They test your patience. They talk louder, not smarter. Not because you're weak, because you're harmless. You show your cards too soon. You explain before anyone asks. You smile to be liked. You soften to be accepted. And here, in America, being liked without being feared is the same as being invisible. The world doesn't fear kindness, it fears the unknown. You were trained from childhood. Be nice. Share. Smile. Don't make others uncomfortable. But nice doesn't win promotions. It doesn't keep respect in a boardroom. It doesn't hold desire in a relationship. Think of the office. The eager one volunteers for every task. He's thanked, then forgotten. The quiet one, the unreadable one, he changes the air in the room without moving. People wait for his words. Sometimes they never come, and that absence weighs more than speeches. Think of dating. The man who texts 3 times, who explains his silence, who apologizes for existing. He's forgotten. The man who replies once, who leaves questions hanging, who disappears for days, he lingers in her mind. Not because he gave more, because he gave less. Machiavelli wrote it 500 years ago. A leader who is not feared will always be vulnerable. Fear doesn't mean cruelty. It means people think twice before crossing you. You don't need to shout. You don't need to strike. You need to be unreadable. Because when you're not a threat, you're a tool, and tools get used, then replaced, then forgotten. Part 1. The Machiavellian Principle. Power doesn't begin with strength. It begins with perception. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote not to flatter kings, but to warn them. A ruler who is loved but not feared will be used. A ruler who is feared but not loved will be obeyed. And you don't need to sit on a throne to see this play out. Look around. Every street corner, every office, every relationship. It's the same law. America teaches you to be liked. The land of customer service smiles, of have a nice day, of constant cheer. We put happy faces on receipts, hearts in emails, thumbs up on screens. We chase approval the way people once chased land. But approval isn't power. Approval is permission to be ignored. In an office meeting, the eager one always nods. He smiles when the boss speaks, laughs when the boss jokes. He takes notes, offers coffee, stays late. Everyone likes him. No one fears him. So his ideas don't stick. His presence doesn't weigh. He's remembered as useful, not necessary. And useful things are replaceable. Now think of the other figure in the same room, the man who doesn't rush to speak, the one who listens, silent, leaning back. He doesn't laugh at weak jokes. He doesn't show his hand. When he finally talks, people stop typing, because the silence before made his words expensive. He may not be liked, but he is not forgotten. Machiavelli saw it in palaces. You see it in grocery stores. The customer who complains loudly about coupons is ignored once the manager smooths things over. The quiet man who says little but refuses small talk unsettles the cashier. Not because he did anything, because he didn't. Silence weighs. Mystery bends behavior. Children test the kind teacher, never the strict one. Employees gossip about the friendly manager, never the cold-eyed director. Why? Because kindness signals safety, and safety invites exploitation. When Machiavelli wrote, he wasn't calling for blood. He wasn't urging cruelty for cruelty's sake. He was describing human nature. People respect boundaries when they fear consequences, not when they believe in your goodness. Not when they see your kindness. It's the same in dating. The man who gives everything early, flowers, constant texts, explanations, apologies, he's liked, but he's not feared. He's predictable, and what's predictable can be controlled. The man who withholds a little, who disappears sometimes, who doesn't always explain. He creates tension, and tension is remembered longer than affection. You don't need violence to create this. You need unreadability. We live in a culture obsessed with transparency. Share more. Overshare. Put your life on Instagram, tweet your feelings, show vulnerability, tell the world everything. But Machiavelli would laugh, because the more you share, the more you can be managed. Think of politicians. The ones who answer every question directly rarely last. The ones who speak in half lines, who smile without explaining, who leave room for doubt, they linger. Because people project their hopes and fears into the silence. Think of dating apps, profiles filled with every hobby, every dream, every wound, swiped past. Profiles with 2 lines and 1 unreadable photo, swiped back. Why? Because mystery hooks, and mystery lives longer than confession. The truth is cold. Respect built only on admiration collapses. Respect built with a layer of fear endures. Machiavelli's Italy was brutal. Princes poisoned cousins. Armies burned villages. But his lesson outlived the blood, because human nature hasn't changed. At work, no one disrespects the boss who might fire them. In love, no one mocks the partner who might walk away without a word. In friendships, no one teases the man whose silence cuts deeper than any joke. Fear doesn't mean rage. It doesn't mean fists. It means people hesitate. It means they adjust. It means they carry your presence inside their head when you're not in the room. What people can predict, they control. What they can't predict, they orbit. That's why the unreadable man is remembered. He speaks less, but his pauses speak more. He smiles sometimes, not always. He answers slowly or not at all. He leaves before the party ends. People replay the silence. They dissect the smirk. They wonder why he left early. They talk about him long after he's gone. Meanwhile, the loud one is forgotten. The eager one is used. The kind one is taken for granted. Watch Wall Street. The negotiator who fills silence with words loses. The one who waits, who stares, who signs last, he gains. Watch Hollywood. The star who tweets daily becomes noise. The star who vanishes for a year, then returns with 1 film, he becomes legend. Watch politics. The candidate who debates too much, defends too often, loses. The one who repeats 1 cold phrase, noted. Next question. Survives. The same principle everywhere. Mystery pulls more weight than honesty. Fear of the unknown outlives affection for the familiar. 5 centuries gone, but his shadow sits in every boardroom, every bedroom. Because he didn't write about kings. He wrote about people. He knew humans are selfish. They test. They exploit. They use what's visible. So he warned, be liked, but also feared. If you cannot be both, be feared. Because love fades when tested. Fear sharpens when tested. Think of your own life. Count the times you were ignored until you walked away. Count the times people respected your boundaries only when you enforced them with distance. Count the times they came back, not when you explained, but when you stopped speaking. That's Machiavellian motion, not violence, not rage, just presence, just mystery, just the cold law of human behavior. Because in every corner of life, from Wall Street to a first date at a diner, one rule holds: being loved without fear makes you forgettable. Being feared, even quietly, makes you unforgettable, and unforgettable is power. Part 2. The power of unpredictability. Predictability is safety, and safety kills respect. People test what they can see. They gamble on what they can read, but they hesitate when they don't know. Machiavelli understood this. He built fear not through swords, but through silence. Not through constant action, but through unpredictability. Most people give themselves away in seconds. Their ambitions, their weaknesses, their insecurities. They talk too much. They defend too quickly. They explain before anyone asks. And once you're mapped, you're managed. Once you're predictable, you're replaceable. In the workplace, the eager one reacts instantly. Yes, I'll handle it, no problem, I'll stay late. He becomes dependable, but dependable is just another word for forgettable. Now think of the other kind, the one who pauses before answering, the one who sometimes says no without reason, the one who doesn't rush to explain. He creates tension. People hesitate to overload him. They weigh their words before asking, because they don't know what he'll do. And unpredictability becomes his shield. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it. With jokes, with apologies, with explanations. But silence unsettles. It throws people off balance. In America, silence is rare. We worship chatter, noise, commentary. So when someone doesn't, when someone chooses stillness, it feels like power. Picture a courtroom. The lawyer who objects at every line fades into background noise, but the one who stays quiet then rises once with a single sentence. He shifts the trial because no one saw it coming. Unpredictability isn't chaos, it's control. It's knowing when not to play. In dating, predictability kills attraction. The man who texts every morning at 8 a.m., the one who apologizes for every delay, the one who explains every mood shift. He's safe, but safe is boring. The man who sometimes disappears, who replies hours later with one short line, who smiles but doesn't explain why. He unsettles, and unsettled hearts chase. It's not cruelty, it's psychology. People obsess over what they can't define. They replay silences. They invent stories to fill the gaps, and the gaps become hooks. Machiavelli watched princes rise and fall. The ones who were too open, betrayed. The ones who revealed too much, destroyed. Modern politics is no different. The candidate who answers every question loses power. The one who sidesteps, who smiles without clarifying, who leaves doubt hanging, he dominates headlines. Because people don't fear answers. They fear questions without closure. On Wall Street, silence makes millions. In negotiations, the man who fills every pause loses leverage. The man who waits, who stares, who signs last, he wins. Because the first to speak is the first to expose, and exposure is weakness. Unpredictability buys time. Time buys respect. People don't fear violence, they fear uncertainty. Violence is visible, predictable. A punch comes fast, ends fast, you recover. But uncertainty lingers. It eats at the mind. It makes people prepare for what may never come. That's why soldiers fear ambush more than open battle. That's why lovers fear silence more than arguments. That's why employees fear a quiet boss more than a shouting one. Because unpredictability turns every step into hesitation, and hesitation is control. Think of sports. The pitcher who throws the same fastball every time gets crushed. The one who mixes speeds, hides signals, stares down batters. He dominates, because no one knows what's next. Think of classrooms. The teacher who forgives every late paper is ignored. The one who sometimes smiles, sometimes stays cold. Respected? Think of friendships. The one always available, always agreeable, used. The one who vanishes sometimes. Who doesn't answer every text, missed. You don't need to fake madness. You don't need chaos. You need restraint. Say less, wait longer. Smile sometimes, not always. Agree once, disagree the next time. Leave a room early without reason. Disappear for a week without announcement. People will guess, they'll imagine, they'll worry, and in their worry, they'll respect. What people can predict, they control. What they can't predict, they orbit. That's the power of unpredictability. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't attack. It waits. It doesn't explain. It leaves you wondering. And wondering is obsession. Because in the end, people don't chase what they understand. They chase what they can't. Part 3. The Machiavellian Habits. Power isn't an act. It's a posture, and posture is built on habits. Machiavelli didn't describe one grand gesture. He described daily discipline, small moves that train perception, rituals that turn presence into control. The first habit is never react first. The world tempts you to flinch. An insult, a joke at your expense, a demand for reaction. Most people rush to answer. They defend, they explain, they show they care. But the first to react is the first to lose. In the office, the junior who corrects the boss mid-sentence is finished. He showed nerves. He showed he could be baited. In dating, the man who texts back instantly, defending his delay, is forgettable. He showed availability, predictability. The Machiavellian pauses. He blinks slowly. He waits. He lets silence stretch until the other side feels it. Silence isn't hesitation, it's calculation. And people fear being calculated more than being confronted. The second habit is to speak slower, say less, leave earlier. Words lose weight when they're cheap. Most people talk to fill space. They rush, they repeat, they explain. But slow speech signals control. Few words signal value. Leaving early signals mystery. Picture a boardroom. One man dominates with long speeches. He's tolerated, not feared. Another listens. He says 2 sentences. Then he leaves before questions come. The room rewinds his words for days. In dating, the eager man stays on the call all night. He's afraid to disconnect. The other man says he has to go. No explanation. He leaves her wondering. That wondering becomes weight. The third habit is withdrawal. The dog is always there. The wolf appears, then vanishes. And when he vanishes, people notice. The always available friend becomes background noise. Calls, texts, favors. He never leaves and never gets respect. The friend who withdraws is missed. People adjust. They wait for his return. In work, the manager who attends every meeting is ignored. The one who shows up rarely, but shifts the air when he enters, is respected. Scarcity breeds value. Withdraw before you become normalized. The fourth habit is to never over-explain. Explanation is subtraction. The moment you justify, you shrink. The moment you explain, you reveal care. Say no, and stop. Change your mind, and stop. Walk away, and stop. No reasoning, no apologies, no wrapping. Explanation is defense. Defense is negotiation, and a threat never negotiates. The fifth habit is emotional neutrality. People test you through emotion. They poke, they provoke, they tease, they guilt. If they can shake you, they can shape you. The Machiavellian stays neutral, not passive. Neutral. They mock him, he smirks. They shout, he blinks slowly. They gossip, he stays silent. They flirt, he observes. The more they fail to move him, the more they assume he's stronger. Unreadability forces projection. At work, a calm face during layoffs is terrifying. In love, a steady tone during arguments is magnetic. In friendship, a refusal to be baited is commanding. Neutrality is the hardest habit, but it builds the strongest aura. Another habit is to control appearance through scarcity. Too much exposure makes presence cheap. Too many posts. Too many appearances. Too many words. Machiavelli would say, appear less. Be seen rarely. Let people wonder what you're doing when you're gone. Celebrities who post daily burnout, the ones who vanish, then drop one film, one album, become legend. Scarcity creates tension. Tension creates memory. The next habit is inconsistency. Predictable kindness becomes weakness. Predictable cruelty becomes resistance. But inconsistency keeps people off balance. Smile today, ignore tomorrow. Warm once, cold the next. Not chaos, not cruelty, just enough to keep them uncertain. Uncertainty keeps people careful, and careful people are easier to command. Consistency builds trust. Inconsistency builds fear. And Machiavelli valued fear. Another habit is to end moments before they close. Closure is comfort, and comfort kills tension. Most people want clean endings, a full explanation, a rapt bow, but power lives in incompleteness. End conversations one line early. Leave dinners before dessert. Exit arguments without the final blow. Incompleteness loops in the mind. People replay. They obsess. They wonder what you meant. And wondering is leverage. Protect your inner world like a fortress. They will ask, what drives you? What do you want? What are you feeling? Most people spill everything. Their dreams, their wounds, their fears. But every revelation is a weapon given away. Offer hints, never headlines. Say, I'm focused. Say, I'm adjusting. Say, it depends. Because when people know your why, they start plotting your how. But when they don't, they stop trying to manage you. Your inner world is your fortress. Defend it. The last habit is restraint. Machiavelli's genius wasn't in speeches, it was in posture, daily restraint, movements of control. You walk slower, you speak later, you pause before you smile. You choose silence when others choose noise. Small rituals, small disciplines. But over time, they build an aura. The aura that says, you don't know what I'm capable of, and you never will. That's presence. That's command. These habits aren't loud, they're quiet, subtle, disciplined. But discipline compounds. And the man who lives these habits becomes unreadable. And the unreadable man cannot be cornered. Machiavelli didn't build armies with words. He built presence with habits. Habits that said, I won't react first. I won't explain. I won't be predictable. I won't be fully known. And because of that, he lasted. Not in love, not in admiration, but in respect and fear. These are the habits of power. Practice them. Repeat them. Let them train your aura. Because in the end, people don't bow to kindness. They bow to mystery. And mystery is built one habit at a time. Part 4. Balancing fear and respect. Fear alone isn't enough. Respect alone isn't enough. Power needs both. Machiavelli knew this. He watched rulers who ruled by fear alone fall to rebellion. He watched rulers who ruled by love alone fall to betrayal. The truth sits in the tension between. If people only fear you, they obey, but they plot. They smile in the room, but whisper outside it. They comply in public, but sabotage in private. Think of the workplace, the boss who yells, the one who threatens, the one who fires on impulse. Employees nod. They nod because they want to keep their jobs. But after hours, they plan exits. They plan revenge. They hope for his failure. Fear without respect breeds resistance. It keeps people in line for a day. But it makes them dream of your downfall for years. Now reverse it. If people only respect you, they praise. They admire your talent. They trust your competence. But over time, respect without fear turns soft. Admiration turns to entitlement. They expect kindness as a guarantee. They push boundaries because they assume you'll forgive. Think of relationships. The partner who is always kind, always respectful, always stable, taken for granted. Her respect is real. But without fear of loss, it becomes comfort. And comfort breeds neglect. Respect without fear breeds entitlement. And entitlement ends in erosion. So the solution is tension. A thin wire stretched between fear and respect. Not cruelty. Not endless kindness. But balance. You are calm, but not always warm. You are kind, but not endlessly available. You are respectful, but not easy to predict. Fear gives weight to respect. Respect gives stability to fear. Look at politics. The leaders who last longest carry both. People admire their competence, but they hesitate, unsure what line not to cross. Look at business. Steve Jobs is remembered not only for vision, but for unpredictability. His employees respected his brilliance, but they also feared his silence. They feared his sudden rejection. That tension made them sharper. Look at sports. The coach admired for discipline, but also feared for cuts, gets the best out of players. The coach who is only feared loses the locker room. The coach who is only respected loses the edge. Humans need uncertainty to respect. If everything about you is mapped, you're safe. If nothing about you is stable, you're dangerous but hated. But when you are both, predictable in presence, unpredictable in emotion, people orbit carefully. That orbit is power. It makes them measure words. It makes them carry you in their heads. Fear sharpens respect. Respect softens fear. Together they build reverence. How do you build it? First, be consistent in control. Never lose composure. Your calm is stable. That stability breeds respect. Second, be inconsistent in warmth. Sometimes amused, sometimes unreadable, sometimes cold. That unpredictability breeds fear. Together, they form tension, and tension is the rope that holds power. Fear alone creates rebels. Respect alone creates freeloaders. Balance creates reverence. Machiavelli's genius was not in choosing fear over respect. It was in weaving both until no one could tell where one ended and the other began. Because people don't truly follow those they only fear, and they don't truly guard those they only respect. But when they both respect and fear you, they tread lightly, they watch carefully, they move differently. That's balance. That's command. Closing dot. Power doesn't live in noise. It lives in presence. Machiavelli understood that men forget words, but they don't forget weight. They forget promises, but they don't forget tension. You've been taught to be liked, to be open, to be harmless. But harmless is invisible, and invisible is powerless. The world doesn't fear what it can explain. It fears what it can't. So you don't need to shout. You don't need to fight. You don't need to bleed on command. You need to hold still. You need to speak less. You need to become the silence people can't interpret, because the loud are noticed in the moment, but the quiet are remembered in memory. Think of the last time someone left you unsettled. It wasn't the one who talked too much. It was the one who said almost nothing. The one you still replay in your mind. That's the point. Not to dominate the room while you're there, but to remain in the room after you've left. Machiavelli's lesson endures. Love without fear is fragile. Fear without respect is unstable. But when both live in your silence, you become untouchable. Not loud, not violent, just unforgettable.